This is Audible.
Brilliance Audio.
Read Between the Lines by Rachel Lacey. Performed by Abby Craden. Chapter 1. There aren't nearly enough women in this display. Rosie Taft braced one hand against the stepladder as she reached to place yet another book whose cover featured a dashingly handsome man into the display case in the front window of Between the Pages bookstore. She was in the process of filling the window display with a colorful array of romance novels, her absolute favorite genre. "Not to worry, there are plenty of ladies waiting," Leah said as she handed Rosie the next book on the stack, a sunny yellow paperback with a woman holding an adorable pup on the cover. Leah was Rosie's best friend and the manager of Between the Pages. "This is more like it," Rosie said as she tapped a finger against the illustrated dog's nose. "I loved this one. Did you read it yet?" "I haven't," Leah said in her crisp British accent. "Unlike you, I actually try to have a social life when I'm not in the store." Rosie carefully added the book to the display before flipping off her friend. "I go out plenty, and between you, Nikki, and Paige, I never get a moment alone at home either." "You go out with friends, which is not the same as a date, and you know it." "What's the point of wasting my time with the wrong person?" Rosie wouldn't apologize for being picky about who she dated. "Because sometimes you have to date Ms. Wrong to find Ms. Right," Leah said. Rosie balanced on her toes as she placed the yellow book on the shelf. "I date Ms. Maybe to find out if she could be Ms. Right, but not if I already know she's wrong for me." "Well, maybe you're holding out for Ms. Perfect." Leah lifted her eyebrows as she handed Rosie the next book. Rosie's cheeks warmed as she recognized the cover, which depicted a woman in a business suit wearing killer red pumps, with the Manhattan skyline visible outside the window behind her. It was the latest lesbian romance by Bree, a notoriously reclusive author who also happened to be Rosie's favorite. She had stumbled across one of Bree's books about 3 years ago and immediately fell in love with her writing. There was something so evocative about Bree's words. Rosie could lose herself in one of her books and not come up for air until she'd finished. Bree wrote heroines Rosie related to, and the kind of swoon-worthy romance she wanted for herself someday. Books like Bree's had shown her what she wanted in a real-life partner, and she wouldn't settle for anything less. She and Leah booked authors into the store for monthly signings, so she'd immediately reached out to Bree's publisher and to Bree herself through the contact form on her website, inviting her for a signing, only to receive the same response from both. Bree didn't do in-person events. Rosie supposed it went along with Bree's enigmatic persona. Her headshot was artfully styled so that her hair obscured most of her face, and her bio contained almost no personal information. A few months ago, Rosie had replied to one of her tweets, and from there, they'd struck up an online friendship on Twitter that only increased Rosie's fascination with her. Bree was warm and funny, and she and Rosie never seemed to run out of things to talk about. It was more than that, though. Rosie had never been one for celebrity crushes or even online dating, but when she chatted with Bree, she felt smitten. Sometimes their interaction seemed flirty, or maybe it was all in Rosie's head. She was a hopeless romantic after all. And if she ever met Bree in real life, she definitely wouldn't say no to a date. "Go on and put Bree's book right up front," Leah said with a knowing smile. "You know you want to." Rosie placed it in the center of the display. "It's a great book with a stunning cover. It belongs up front." "Mm-hmm," Leah said. "When are you going to tell her who you are? She might agree to come into the store now that you two are friends." Rosie shrugged as she adjusted a Regency historical so that it didn't block the "Fall in Love" sign at the top of the display. Paper leaves in various shades of red, orange, and yellow decorated the shelves. "We're just online friends. I don't even know her real name." "Online friends are perfectly valid," Leah said. "I've met lots of lovely people online." "Okay, that's true," Rosie admitted. "But as you know, she doesn't do signings. Maybe she has a good reason for staying anonymous. Besides, she probably doesn't even live here in the city. Her author bio just says New York. It's a big state." "And right now you're having too much fun flirting with her on Twitter," Leah teased. "It's chatting, not flirting," Rosie deflected, tired of trying to define her relationship with Bree. She extended a hand so Leah could pass her another book. We talk about books and TV, not specific things about our lives. She's very private. I'm afraid if I told her now, she'd think I was only chatting with her to try to get her into my store. Well, aren't you? No, I like her as a person, and I like talking to her. Rosie placed the last book on the shelf and then hopped down from the ladder to survey her work. The display featured a diverse array of romance novels that made her heart happy. When her mom first opened Between the Pages over 30 years ago, she'd wanted to create a store that would welcome everyone and every genre, and now that she was gone, Rosie was doing her best to follow in her footsteps. In today's ever-changing book market, she worked hard to keep Between the Pages relevant. She offered lots of in-store events and extras, including subscription boxes and gift baskets. Rosie's specialty was matching a person with their perfect book when they came into the store, and she had a loyal following who returned to be matched over and over again. Books spoke to her on a soul-deep level. They had the power to change lives when someone saw themselves represented on the page for the first time, and nothing made her happier than helping a customer find that connection. You know, Bree may have already been in the store, Leah said, pushing her glasses up her nose. Today she wore a blue-striped jumpsuit that would have looked ridiculous on Rosie but perfectly suited Leah's offbeat aesthetic. What do you mean? Rosie asked as she led the way outside so they could see the display from the street. The September afternoon was cool and breezy, and the air was lightly scented with herbs and tomato sauce, courtesy of the Italian restaurant on the corner. Well, she lives somewhere in this state, Leah said, and she obviously loves books, so for all you know, she may have already visited us. Rosie put her hands on her hips as she surveyed the window. The yellow book with the dog on the cover was slightly off-center. I don't think the chances are very high. Plus, she told me she mostly reads ebooks. Maybe you should keep an eye on the women who come into the store just in case, Leah said playfully. You never know. I don't. Brinkley, no! Rosie lunged for the door as her dog's little brown head appeared in the window display, knocking over several books. She rushed inside and scooped him up before he caused any more damage. Of course you wake up the minute I step outside. His tail swished happily as he wriggled in her arms, leaning to kiss her face. He's probably ready for a walk and I could do some fresh air myself. Want me to take him? Leah offered as she knelt to straighten the books on the bottom shelf of the display. Sure, thank you. Rosie pressed her lips against the little flat spot between his eyes that just begged for kisses before setting him down. Leah retrieved his leash from behind the counter and was clipping it to Brinkley's collar just as the bell tinkled over the front door, announcing that someone had entered